Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move on to introductions.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Kuri Teran, and
If you please mute your mic and stop sharing, and I will start the presentation. Sorry about that. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Laura Chavez. I am a project manager here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, and I have Kuri here with me today. Can you please introduce yourself?
certainly. Hi, good morning. My name is Kuri Teran. I'm with the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, Director of First Impressions, and I'm happy to see everybody here.
Great, thank you. We're going to move online to our hub team. Greg, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Greg Mullen. I'm the president and owner here at ABQ IT and proud member and subject matter expert at the Echo Hub team.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Mark.
Good morning. My name is Mark Fidel. I own Fidel Consulting Group, and I'm proud to be able to work with the Chamber's Echo project, and I'm one of the subject matter experts.
Great. Welcome, Mark. Elliot.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elliot Padas. I'm a program specialist with Project Echo, just here to support.
Great. Since we have such a small group at this point, we're going to go ahead, go forward with introductions with our participants. Daryl, would you mind going next?
Hi, Daryl Deloach of the Public Safety Echo. Just always finding these echoes very informative.
Wonderful. Welcome. Steve?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Steve Garcia. I work here at HIT Contracting, formerly Brycon Corporation. I'm also a team member on a cybersecurity project called Fugu Solutions. And I'm a Hispano Chamber board member and just excited to learn from all you wonderful people.
Wonderful. Welcome, Steve. Christine, sir.
No worries. Hi, I'm Christine Rice. I am the owner and CEO of my own consulting company. I help businesses with strategy and growth initiatives.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here, Christine. Nicholas?
Hi, this is, sorry, I'm not sure if you hear an echo. I think I may have joined on twice.
It sounds fine.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Nick. I'm with Savia Systems. I'm the owner of Savia Systems. We are a professional staffing and recruiting company here in Albuquerque, and been in business for just over 20 years now, and looking to get a better grasp of some of the AI tools and everything pretty much around that world of new and just up and coming tech. So thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome, Nicholas. Vernon?
Hi, good morning. My name is Vernon Cox. I am the owner of Santed Quantum Scheduling, new startup here in Albuquerque, and we're working on doing some scheduling in regards to quantum computing, working with CNM and hopefully gaining a quantum computing grant from the state. So just wanted to find out what's going on and see what I can learn about the information that you're sharing. Thanks very much.
Wonderful. Welcome, Vernon. Corey?
Good morning. Corey Frazier, president of Conifer Incorporated. We are a business systems and AI consulting firm.
Wonderful. Welcome, Corey. So this morning we have a presentation by one of our hub team members, Greg Mullen of ABQ IT. The topic is building your AI factories. Greg, would you like to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. Let me just go ahead here and get ready to share my screen. And we'll jump right into it here. All right. Can everybody see my screen okay? Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
fantastic. So, again, I'm Greg Mullen. I'm the CEO here at ABQ IT, and we're a local IT company doing managed and professional services, cybersecurity, and increasingly the AI side of all that here in Albuquerque. And the title of today's session is building your AI factory. So it's going to be all about how to audit your work, find your leverage within your work, and then bring about your AI factory within your work. So before we go down this journey, right, I want you guys to just kind of conceptualize a minute, sitting in your driveway, getting ready to jump in your car to go to work. Okay. And if you work from home, you probably still have to go places for work, maybe to appointments, meetings, all that kind of thing. Let's say, you're getting in your car, you're about to start your car, and you're going to go do something for your professional life. And, you do this despite knowing the potential dangers and even harm that your car could cause. I mean, a sobering fact is that 40,000 Americans die a year in their cars. And of course, we've all been made aware of the negative environmental externalities associated with using cars like we do. Yet we still make the decision to turn the key and go to work, go pursue our professional engagements because it enhances our lives. It helps our flourishing. Not only is it important for just sustaining a living, but it brings us, hopefully personal satisfaction. It's worth the trip. And not just your professional life, right? We go places like to the movies, we go to plays, we go visit family. We still use the car despite knowing the dangers and externalities, because it is part of our human flourishing, our lives, right? And I want to bring that up because AI is very, very similar. We could think of it as almost the perfect analogy because the trip was worth taking with AI. The tool is worth using because of the result, because it's what it's going to bring to your life. And I bring it up only because there is a legitimate concern. I'm not saying that AI doesn't use energy, doesn't use water, and doesn't use compute. But again, it's about what are we getting for that, right? And that really too is about what today's conversation is about, is getting the most out of your AI use. So with that in mind, I want you to think about now sort of life before AI, right? When it came to producing your work outputs that we all produce, you could call them, say, deliverables. And today I'll come up with a couple examples. We're going to have like a sales example and a marketing example. So in the past, we would handcraft deliverables. And an example of that would be, let's say, a sales proposal. So you're in sales, you go to the meetings, you have your customer pain points and your solution. You put all those pieces together. Maybe you use a template, right? You write the executive summary, you go through your CRM, you get your pricing in there, and you handcraft and you put that whole proposal together to show to your customer. If it's marketing, maybe it's something like you're putting together a social media post. So you have to come up with the image and then write the content, and then you put that together, and that's your deliverable. That's handcrafted. Now we've sort of moved to an AI assisted way of working with this. So a lot of us are pulling up ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, any of these AIs, and we're coming up with a prompt, help me write this social media post for XYZ. And you're giving it all the information that it needs right then and there in that post about what you're trying to do. Let's say on the sales side, you'll open up ChatGPT, you'll click new chat, and maybe you'll dump in a transcript or something like that. Try to contain the parameters. If you're writing the executive summary, it can only be so long. So maybe tell it a brief paragraph or something. And then you're getting that output, right? And then you're maybe copying it and then you're pasting it back into your proposal. So you're still kind of crafting it and putting it together with the help of an AI. I'm sure we're all at that point now, hopefully, where we're using these AIs to that extent. But the next level, what I want to talk about is really the factory, going beyond just the AI assisted and really kind of compounding the output of what you're doing, where you set the intent, the overall goal, the system produces the deliverable, and then you review, refine, and approve. And you and an AI are the orchestrator, and maybe there's more than one AI. Maybe there's different agents, like one that creates the image and one that writes the content for the social media post. But that's an example of what I'm talking about, is sort of this next level. It's beyond using AI like we do Google, where you just pop it open, put in your question and get your answer, and more systemizing what you're doing with the AI. And so what we've put together here is a way for you to examine your own workflow, what you do with your day-to-day, how you spend your time, and try and figure out what things that you're doing today maybe you should be eliminated altogether, maybe should be automated, maybe should be orchestrated, like we just mentioned, and done by an AI, and what's really durable within your workflow. What is it that AI can't do and shouldn't be doing, that you should maybe lean more into, right? And so every hour of work you do, every task, every meeting, every email could fall potentially into one of these 4 buckets. And I'm going to walk you through all 4. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to do these yourself in the form of a custom GPT. So if you're a Chat GPT user, normally I'll give you this link at the end here. I'll drop it in the chat, and you could follow this link and you could go through this and have a conversation with this AI. If you have the AI connected to a lot of your tools, like your email and your calendar and that kind of thing, it's going to make it a lot easier, because the AI is going to be able to actually go through and actually audit some of your actual real work output, look at your calendar, and see that kind of thing. But the goal really is to categorize the time you spend at work and professionally into one of these 4 buckets. So the bucket 1 is T for theater. So theater work is you do maybe for, it's just kind of busy work, or, just sort of what people have always done at that job, or something that doesn't really add value. It's just for show. Maybe certain meetings could be like that, but really a litmus test could be, if the activity disappeared tomorrow, would the only consequence be just the loss of that activity? Doesn't really produce anything valuable. So it could be, go back to the meeting example, some weekly meeting that happens that people go and just kind of share superficially about what they're working on, and everybody's just eager to get out of there and go back to what they're doing, and no real decisions get made, or nobody actually talks about substance. Okay, so that's an example of say theater. And I'll tell you, it can be kind of hard to tell what's theater and what's not. So really, if you're going to go through this exercise, either yourself or with the AI that I'll provide a link for, you want to spend some time really thinking about this. And because it could be hard to figure out what's theater versus some of these. So bucket 2, commodity. So commodity is real value producing work, but it might not require you specifically. So this works whether you're an owner of a business, whether you're an employee of a business, right? As long as you're working in the business, you're going to be producing outputs, you're going to be doing things, and some of those may be things that you do, but they don't require exactly you. And so the litmus test there is, if you could actually just write out a detailed specification or instruction form or wiki or something, could a competent stranger do it? Or an AI produce an output that's just as useful? So let's say maybe it's replying to a post on social media or a review or something in your business that gets high volume reviews or posts. Do you need to be the one that replies to every post? Could a competently trained person that given your company voice and some parameters do that, right? So that could be maybe an example of a commodity. The next bucket, 3, is L. It stands for on the line. And this is the one that you probably want to pay the most attention to. This is the compression zone, right? This is the one that feels safe that, AI is definitely not coming for these types of workflows, right? But you could be surprised. So this is sort of the litmus test would be like, could a strong junior do 70% of the work? So somebody, say, produces the sales proposal that we talked about earlier, right? And they even get it to say 90% or something. You just make a few final tweaks and it's there. So that might be an example of something that's on the line, okay? And then the last one is durable work. And so durable work is where it's work you can point to and say, like, I added value, and you really did. And it's hard to pinpoint or write down exactly what you did in a way that somebody else could just exactly follow, right? And when I ran this on myself last week and did this, I'll admit the conversation with the AI is a little bit uncomfortable at times. There might be segments of your work that you think are definitely durable, but end up in the commodity bucket. And there was even some that maybe you think might lean towards theater, but end up in the durable. So this is a really important exercise of finding what is it in your workflow that could potentially and probably maybe will in the future be done competently well by an AI. So this is the first step, is just finding what it is in your workflow and your employees' workflows that is theater, that's commodity, that is sort of on the line, and that is actually durable work. Now the question here, of course, everybody, what about the jobs? Is AI coming for the jobs, right? It's another big objection point that we're all going to be dealing with, whether we're owners, whether we're employees. It's a common, internet meme. And really, I'm not telling you that your job's going away. I'm not sitting here saying that you should fire half your team. That's really the wrong question. I think that's really just kind of sensational too. It makes great framing for media headlines and that kind of thing. But the serious question, the real one here is, how do you take the time that AI gives back to your team and reinvest it in work that actually grows the business, that actually moves the needle? So a big part of once you find out what bucket those things go into and you're able to build these factories and free up your time, if your teams are spending the rest of their time, to play Candy Crush, that really wasn't a very good automation, right? It wasn't a very good use of freeing up their time. But if your team gets that time back and they're able to spend it on that reclaimed time on more of that durable work, more of what makes them really special within your organization, right? There's going to be a lot more opportunity for them to add even greater value than what they were previously. And that's really what this is about, right? Not replacing jobs, not taking humans, but it's changing the way that we work within our organizations. So if we take the framework that we just applied or that we just built and we apply it to the workflows that we talked about earlier, where we have our sales team and our marketing one, it could look something like this. So a marketing email campaign, when you write the actual email copy, the body, the text, the subject line, the call to action, most of that is commodity work. You do have a brand voice, a company voice. You have maybe that's templated. You have a tone that you've used in all previous communications. Once you can define those, generating those actual words, that content is a specification problem. It's not really a judgment that a human needs to make. And then same for personalizing across segments, whether it's pulling fields and formatting and proofreading and setting it up in your marketing platform. All that can be done by any competent person. It doesn't take really specialized knowledge. Now, the review of the actual draft before it goes out, that's where it gets interesting. When a marketing manager looks at the AI generated output and adjusts maybe 3 sentences, or because they don't like the way it lands, that's maybe on the line. Most of the work was already done, and the last final percentage points that actually make it able to get published is the expert judgment of, say, the marketing manager. And the durable work in the marketing is the stuff that happens, before any words get written at all, deciding which segments to target, deciding what offer to make, which channels to invest in, what social media apps you're going to be publishing this in, the brand voice you use for 10 years. Is that still the right brand voice? All that kind of stuff. That's the work that requires the specific human input there. That's depends on judgment and taste of the person working there, right? And then theater would be, say, the weekly marketing stand-up where everybody reports what they're working on. But nobody's really listening to each other, and they're all just multitasking and trying to get the work done at the same time. So that's an example of how this would be applied to the marketing one, and you can kind of see also how it might apply over into the sales one. So now let's say you have an idea of a workflow that you're doing, something that you're doing that's maybe a good candidate to be completely automated, to be replaced, to be put into a factory inside your business, right? And not all factories are created equal. And I want to cover here just a little bit about sort of these factories and what do we mean by this factory, and really why we put these in these 4 levels, because each level here adds a capability. And those capabilities add trust, and I'll walk you through these and I'll show you what it looks like with our 2 workflows. So level 1 is conditioning and steering. So this is the foundation. This tells AI what you want. You have to give it the right context, right? Which may be those specific meeting notes, you have to set the guardrails, maybe the length of the output that you want. The work at the level is building the specifications that makes the AI actually useful. For the marketing factory, level 1 would look like this. Instead of write an email about our spring promotion, which just would get you something generic, right? The system gets, the customer segment, the brand voice rules, the offer details, the pain points being addressed, the word count, the call to action, the platform formatting, really tight specifications. And then, if you do that, you get a really useful output. And a lot of people skip the level. Like I said, they just open the chat. They open a fresh chat with ChatGPT, hope it has enough context in its memory feature, and put in a vague request and get a mediocre output, right? And they conclude that AI is not ready, and they're right. And AI is not ready for prompts that are very vague and loose, and specifications that aren't well defined, right? But for specifications that are, like I mentioned, it's very ready, right? So level 2, authority and verification. So once the AI is generating output, you have to check it. We all know that it can hallucinate, it can make things up if it doesn't have the context, but it thinks it should or does. It might not even tell you, hey, I didn't find that information. It could just make it up, right? And generate plausible sounding nonsense. So for the marketing factory, for example, every email runs through, say, a brand voice check, a fact check against approved data sources, compliance verification, making sure the unsubscribe link is present, the sender info is correct, stuff like that. And this can be done with humans. It could be done with software, deterministic checks, that kind of thing. But without the verification, you're kind of rolling the dice on the business. You have to have some kind of checker in there to make sure that what it's produced is what you want, right? And so that's where a lot of businesses kind of are right now. A lot of people are doing this. They're building with AI. They're producing these outputs. They're checking in them, right? But I want to move on to 3 and 4 here because I think this really taking things to the next level where a lot of businesses fail to implement. They're not doing right now. And so if you can do these, then it kind of creates a moat for you. So level 3 is really about scaling these workflows, these repeatable workflows in pipelines where you're not creating just one-off prompts anymore. So for your marketing factory, you could break the work into 3 stages. There's lots of different tools and things to do this. If you haven't been to all of our Project Echoes, go back and look at some of them. Corey, who's on the call, has done one on N8N. So for example, you could set this type of thing up in that type of platform where you break the work into 3 stages. You have a campaign, say brief intake, an audience analysis per segment, message development, asset generation, that makes the pictures and that kind of thing, a brand voice and compliance check, and then even popping in for a human review to check out the draft, right? And then once approved, the platform scheduling and deployment. So it's like 7, 8 stages where each one has a very clear input, a very clear output. And if there's something off on it, you can actually just focus on that one stage that's delivering that part. And it's very easy to fine tune and get exactly what you're looking for there. So for the sales proposal factory, same architecture. You might have like a discovery call, transcript ingestion, pain point extraction, case study retrieval from your books, and then executive summary draft, pricing population where it figures out what to price, style guide application, compliance check, human review, all that kind of thing. So that's an example of a workflow that you put in as a system. From there, we move to level 4, which is the real moat here, where we've been able to do this in customers and every single day get some amazing results out of these systems. And the big concept in level 4 is compounding leverage. So as the system works, if we think of number 3 there, and as you're producing these outputs and they're getting published, right? They're going out there either as a sales proposal, either as marketing copy, right? If you could find a way to, measure the success of those outputs, so you can measure, clicks and engagement on social media posts. You can measure over time, your proposal success, right? And try to isolate those variables, and then you come back and you use the output to improve the factory itself. You use the indicators of reality, it's contact with reality, right? For example, the social media post, the engagement type of thing, that's direct contact with reality. You can read logs of the way people use your systems, right? There's lots of ways to capture the output's contact with reality. You take that back into the system itself and you use it to improve the system. So your social media posts get more viral, they get more engagement over time, and your sales proposals get better as you record your sales meetings and upload those transcripts, into the system itself and figure out that, if you actually present your pricing maybe later on in the conversation, it produces a better output than when you had it sort of in the middle of your conversation. So that's really the compounding leverage part that is a massive moat because it's a self-improving loop that you have going where your outputs are constantly getting better based on what's happening with them out into the real world. So the next step is, now that we've identified workflows within your daily work routines that could potentially be automated or better used with AI, right? Now that we've sort of identified what an AI factory looks like from a high level, now I want to help you conceptualize maybe how to prioritize the different workflows that you have. If you have multiple workflows here, how do you prioritize which ones that you want to maybe work on turning into a factory, because you're not going to be able to just attack your entire business, your entire day workflows, right? You're going to want to focus on one at a time and get it going and working, and then move on to the next one as you experience success. And you want the first ones that you do to be able to build leverage for all the other ones. And that leverage, a lot of times, is in the form of some sort of money bucket that your automation, your factory is going to bring back into the business, or your workflow, right? And so one way to analyze the different factories that you potentially could build within your business, within your workflows, is by considering these money buckets. And the next slide too, I'm going to talk about is, whether or not to buy an AI factory or build one of your own, or a combination of different tools that you can do to put these together. And this analysis will help you kind of figure out what makes the most sense, right? What's going to give you a bigger return. So let's look real quick at bucket one, run cost reduction. Very familiar one, where let's say you have overhead that doesn't directly produce value, like say bookkeeping. It's hard to tie that directly to revenue within your business. Customer service triage, right? Where it's just part of the package. They're not paying to use your customer service. It's already included, right? So it's just kind of one of those overhead that is required for the business. Administrative coordination, that kind of thing. When you set up a factory for that work, the cost goes down. You either save the salary line, or you redeploy the person to higher value work, like we were talking about before. So an example, your bookkeeper spends 4 hours a day reconciling receipts against bank deposits. The factory does that now in 5 minutes. So that's 20 hours a week. You're not paying that person to do that, or 20 hours that person now spends on, say, collections, where you can bring in a bunch of stranded revenue that you wouldn't get otherwise. Let's say bucket two, productivity and throughput. So this is exactly what the sales proposal factory would do. So your rep, let's say, used to do 2 proposals a day. And with this factory that can go through and read all those transcripts, and get the pricing from your CRM, and write the executive summary in your voice and that kind of thing, now they can do 8. So same person, 4 times the throughput. On your financial statements, it would show up as either a revenue growth, because you're closing more deals because you're pitching more, right? Or maybe revenue maintained, because you didn't have to hire 3 or 4 more salespeople to scale up where you would have previously. Bucket 3 is direct revenue uplift, obviously the most exciting bucket. Also the most dangerous, because it's where people overpromise, but it means the factory unlocks revenue you could not access before. New work that brings in money. So example is, the say outbound voice dialer that I demoed on a couple of calls back here for Project Echo, where this voice AI can make hundreds of qualified calls a day and set up appointments that we just wouldn't have been able to do before, because we couldn't hire an entire telemarketing team to do that. Bucket 4, risk avoidance. Boring but critical. So let's say the factory checks every outgoing document for compliance issues, and you have some kind of compliance standard that you're adhered to operate in your industry. May not directly add revenue or cost avoidance, but that risk avoidance is huge, right? Because the consequences of, say, missing your audit and your compliance standard might lose trust in your industry, or cause a bunch of extra work to try and cover those up. So the risk avoidance, it's hard to brag about, but it's the value that it adds because of what didn't happen, right? The breach you didn't have, the fine you didn't pay, the lawsuit you didn't have to fight. And then bucket 5, quality rework and reduction. So every business has rework. Work has to be redone because something was wrong the first time, maybe defects on a production line, customer complaints, engineering deliverables that come back with corrections. The factory could catch these before they ship, and defect rate drops and rework costs drop and customer satisfaction goes up. So you can try and think through, right, and paint a picture of what would it look like within my business if we were to create this AI factory that automates this workflow in this way, and map through here, and try to conceptualize and theorize what it would do for you. What bucket would it get into? You can work it even further by trying to come up with some real numbers, do some back of the envelope, back of the napkin calculations, and put numbers to paper. And then it could help you prioritize these in a way where unlocking the first one gives you more capability to unlock the next, and so forth. And then the case study here, to talk about, the 5 money buckets is the framework. Now, these 3 cases I'll go over are real world cases that I want to talk about. And I also want to throw a stat out that I just read from Gartner, very recent stat, saying that 40% of agentic AI projects will fail by 2027. And the reasons that Gartner listed for that, is because of unclear business value, inadequate risk controls, and unmanaged costs. And so I want you guys to walk out of here as part of the 60% that will succeed. And so I want to show you what success looks like for us, and give you the tools here to be part of that 60%. So we have this first example. We're calling it tab takeoff. Tab stands for testing and balancing. So it's around HVAC systems. The commodity work was building out the quote. So the engineering firm would get requests from the contractor for a quote. The contractor would send over the PDF building plans. Engineers would have to pore over those page by page, manually counting the fixtures and tagging all the equipment that they would be responsible for in the scope. And then to turn a quote around to that contractor, keeping in mind that nobody wins every single quote. So much of that engineering time rate, even if they win half of their bids, that means 50% of that time they don't even get paid for, right? And on average, it would take them quite a bit of time because these PDF plans can be really dense. So 8 hours maybe even to turn one quote around. And so we were able to build a factory within their organization that took that 8-hour quoting time down to 30 minutes with the same accuracy. So it's giving a lot more valuable engineering time that they can spend on jobs that they've won, rather than quoting out jobs that they may or may not win. Still very important, obviously, activity that has to get done, but it was a big benefit for them. And the money bucket there for that particular one is really just productivity and throughput, because they can pursue the same bid volume with a lot less engineering time. The next one here, Shelby, this is what I'm calling the AI voice agent, the one I demoed a couple maybe months ago now, last month actually, in the Project Echo. And it's an AI that goes through and dials prospect lists, leaves voicemails, coordinates a meeting with somebody who's interested in taking a call with us to talk about IT or AI work. And it allows us to reach out to a lot more people in the community. Some of you on this call might have even gotten a call from Shelby and talked to her, and do business development that we really wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So the money bucket there is just adding revenue. The next one is the Oracle, which is some work we're doing for a regional law firm. The commodity work is that they have massive archive of files from 20 years of working with clients. Those files may not all be organized in the best way they should. And, paralegals can spend hours hunting for the right document sometimes. New attorneys take months to ramp up to get their head around the context of certain customers and cases. And so we were able to set up a system that organize their files in a way that makes sense and can really quickly just get in there and find files and bits of information within the file. So paralegals and lawyers can just query the AI, and it goes in there and it turns their entire file database into just a queryable system that they could talk to. And so then the bottom of the slide here, the matrix, this is the 5 levers that I wanted to talk about. And this really, it comes down to, once you have these workflows that you want to automate, you have the factory that you want to build, you've done your analysis on what money buckets it fits into, right? The next question is going to be, okay, now what? All right. And so really you have these 5 levers, this options of how to turn this into a reality. And quickly here, level 1 is you can automate this. And again, go back and look at some of our YouTube videos on Project Echoes, like where Corey is talking about NAN and a lot of these tools, like the one he did last time, Claude, Cowork. Now ChatGPT has Codex, which you can download on your machine. But it comes down to, you could use any one of those tools. There's a lot of them out there. But you can set up, clean patterns, recognizable exceptions, predictable inputs, and you could set up some of these automations just using out-of-the-box tools. Lever 2 would be building it. Maybe there's more unique workflows. Maybe you need something like N8N. You need to bring in company-specific context, proprietary data, maybe approval gates where you need to bring that human in to approve before things get pushed out. And to succeed there, you really need to know what is a good output. Like if you can't define success, then you can't evaluate your own build. So in the tab takeoff example, if you can't look at a tab quote and understand that that's a good quote, you're not going to be able to evaluate that output, right? So that's a big important part of that one. Then there's lever 3, which you can buy. You could just buy off-the-shelf parts and solutions right now. There's off-the-shelf voice AI solutions that, there's lots of them available. There's even bits and pieces that you might buy. Let's say you need payment processing for one of your workflows, so you may contract with Stripe and bring Stripe in as part of what you're doing. There's, solutions, whole solutions out there that are aimed at specific industries that you could evaluate and just buy some vendors' pre-built workflow. The big thing there is just make sure you get a really good understanding of what that vendor's offer is, and you're not trying to match your workflow to their offering, and you want to make sure that their offering truly matches your workflow, right? And then there's lever 4, which is hire. You can, hire an expert, either someone internally who's going to be, your AI innovation expert, your chief AI officer within the business, or you can hire that out fractionally. You can hire a firm like ABQ IT to come help you and get that built out, right? And there's lots of great people here in our community, some even on the calls here who can also help you out with that as well. And then lever 5, the last one, you could just wait, right? So again, don't try to boil the ocean. Pick one thing at a time. Change management resources are limited. So if a workflow is a low priority, low impact, or if your current system is working just fine, you can wait. Don't apply AI just because you absolutely can. So tomorrow morning, your playbook, right? Run the audit. I'll drop the link in the chat. Pick one commodity workflow within your work, and then pull the right lever. Figure out whether to automate, build, buy, hire, wait. And that concludes my session here. Does anybody have any questions or workflows that they want to talk about as potential automations?
I got a question. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of in line with what you're saying, except I guess the original question or your original philosophy on actually implementing AI. Do you? Well, let me back up. I'm a one-man shop, so a lot of the things that you're talking about, I don't actually reach out. I do it myself. And I've been using Claude and ChatGPT and working a lot of the things just with it without going through all the other processes. So I guess what I'm asking is, where is the next step on your thoughts on using AI that takes away a lot of the things that you're asking to bring back in regards to help somebody else, um, advising or consulting. I've been using it successful. I did have to upgrade my service to the max plan because a lot of the things that I was doing I kept bumping into when I had the lower plan. But once I got to the max plan, I was off and running in regards to doing the RFP responding and building code, writing Python code with Claude Code. So I guess what you're the way that you're describing it, it seems a slower start. And I was just wondering, do you feel like the systems are not moving fast enough to get rid of a lot of the overhead, or where do you think that the AI is going to fail in regards to like a one-man shop operation or a one-person shop operation?
Yeah, with a one-person shop operation, it can be difficult because you're right. You kind of do have to think about slowing down to speed up. And what I mean by that is, if you have routines right now that you're doing to get your work done, and those routines include using AI, the way that we talked about, where you open up a chat and you just chat with it, and you get your deliverables, and you copy and you paste out of it, and then you move on to your next task. It can be hard to take time and set it aside and really look at your business the way that I suggested in this talk, and then think about how to what workflows you want maybe to potentially automate, what that would mean to the business, and then to actually do it. That is work that isn't the actual day-to-day grind of your job. It's stepping outside of that for a minute. But once you're able to do that, if you're able to do that, if you're able to set aside some time to automate this, then you could potentially take off your plate something that's a time suck for you, but that's not adding a huge amount of value to the business. And that's the very beginning of the leverage that I'm talking about. That's leverage within your business that you can apply towards either the next thing or something you're already doing that's extremely durable, that's adding a lot of value to the business. You could free up your time from the busy work, to the work that's going to make a bigger impact, so you achieve your objectives faster and better.
Got it.
It can be hard though to step outside of your routine and just look at it from the outside and do this. But if you do that, you're going to get that leverage.
Greg, I have a question. Can you tell me if in your business, which of these functionalities have you automated, such as marketing calls or sales calls or what have you? Any kind of pitch that you have and your company have come up with to utilize to generate new business?
Yeah, so marketing was an area for us that we decided to build a factory around, and that factory includes outbound, what you would call cold calls. So that's one part of the marketing factory. The deliverable of that, you could say, would be the call itself. The ultimate key performance indicator is the appointment, because the AI is designed to get a hold of that person, pitch the decision maker. If they're interested in an appointment, coordinate the time on the calendar. And so you just have these appointments show up on your calendar. So that's one component of the factory. Other components are the social media, posts, and comments and content creation, email campaigns, that kind of thing. All those need to coordinate with each other, so they're not just off flying randomly, people getting random calls and emails and that kind of thing. And so that's all orchestrated by an AI that sort of runs that marketing factory for us. So that's an example of a factory that we've set up to produce top of funnel leads for our business.
And how, if you can speak to us about the results of your KPIs, have they given you the results that you were hoping for, or is it above and beyond what you expected? Can you talk about that?
We are getting results that indicate that it is going to be positive and sustainable. So voice AI is very cutting edge tech. When I did the presentation a month or so ago, I brought my voice AI in on the call with me, the one that makes our outbound calls. That's a product of ChatGPT, so it's an open AI voice AI. And that was still in beta from them. Beta means it's not ready for prime time. This is just for testing and that kind of thing. Since that call, they've taken it out of beta and brought it into production and improved it a lot. And we were getting appointments. It was successful in beta. This technology is only getting better. I've always been telling people AI is the worst it'll ever be right now, and it's just getting nothing but better and better. And like I mentioned, if you really unlock that recursive learning loop where every call gets analyzed, every marketing outreach gets analyzed, all the outputs get analyzed, and those outputs and the results get fed back into the system, it's self-improving. So a lot of these systems, when they first go in, it's okay. You'll see some interesting, curious results. When we did the engineer quoting thing, they started getting quotes back. The quotes were not perfect right away. There was a lot of engineering time that had to go into it. Maybe we got it 60% there and the engineer did 40%. But if you can lock in that recursive learning, now it went from 60-40 to like it's 95% and the engineer just does the last 5%. And so the systems definitely get better over time. And that's the biggest unlock that we found is you get the system in and then you just start improving it based on what it's doing in reality and it improves. So it's improving and the early signs are very encouraging.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
What question? So what level of service are you using on ChatGPT and if Claude? I mean, are you using the basic or are you using the enterprise? What level of service are you using?
Yeah, we have the enterprise plans for both. I think it's equivalent to like the $200 a month subscription for ChatGPT and for Claude. And yeah, and that's what I use personally for a lot of these. Some of these systems are powered by their APIs. So instead of just your subscription, these services, they have external APIs which allow you to use the service on a per use basis. So some of what we set up for customers, like they wouldn't even use enough to cover some of these subscriptions, but it's still a really valuable workflow. And so we're able to just use the API. So it's just pay as you go in that sense. You could use one or the other or both.
Got it. Okay. And have you found specific versions that work better for certain, let's say certain clients? In other words, Claude works good for one client versus ChatGPT for another versus Perplexity for another. Have you found anything like that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a mistake to conflate ChatGPT and Claude as peers and exact equals. Some things they are, it's very hard to tell which one's better at writing code, for example. They're both very, very good. As a matter of fact, I'll use them together, right? Where one will write the plan, one will execute the plan, and one will review the plan. And so you have these different models checking each other's work. That's a great practice. But for example, Claude is really good at working with Excel. I did a Claude and Excel video here for Project Echo. You can go back and watch, but it's a great tool. So if people are already working in Excel and part of the workflow lives there, Claude's great for that. It's great for making PowerPoint presentations. This PowerPoint presentation was made with Claude versus ChatGPT is just not very good at it at all. There's even differences in the Mac and the PC.
Greg, if I may,
Yeah.
Claude is much better with Excel than Excel's own Copilot, quite honestly.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Then Microsoft's own AI product that they built for Excel, Claude's just way better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely differences there. And for some of these workflows, we did a lot of tests. So when it comes to like AI vision to read those really, really dense engineering PDF drawings, we tested all the models a bunch. ChatGPT and Google Gemini were pretty equal for the most part, but Gemini is just a little bit less expensive on that API cost. So we ended up going with Gemini for that. But I do recommend if you're going to be building a factory, you're not sure which model to insert for what deliverable, run some tests.
Got it.
Greg, we have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie Salazar has a question.
Hi, Craig.
Maddie,
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm connecting from Las Vegas. I'm really excited to be part of this Albuquerque Echo program that I was invited to attend. I work with the chamber in Las Vegas, and we do some business training here locally. And I was curious because we have a lot of Spanish-speaking business owners in our community, and we wanted to, we're trying to figure out how we can get them to build capacity through AI, and help them with training and consulting. And is that something that you or your team can provide? Or maybe through AI, we can, now with AI, I know that we can probably have translation at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And my phone agent actually speaks really good Spanish. We have it calling into El Paso as well. And there's a lot of obviously Spanish calls that happen there. But that's absolutely something we'd be interested in helping out with. You can contact me through our website or just Greg at abq-it.com.
Okay.
And I can chat with you more on that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for showing up to the call.
Absolutely.
So before we get started with our poll, we're going to take a short poll. Daryl did make a comment. He says, "Yeah, I'm almost afraid to find out from an agent how inefficient I am." And I think a lot of us can see how that can be intimidating.
Yeah, Daryl, if you take I dropped the link, by the way, in the chat. If you have ChatGPT, I'd recommend using the AI that you normally use more than anything. I have a skill for Claude, so if anybody's a main Claude user, let me know and I can drop that skill in. If not, click the link, use ChatGPT if you're a ChatGPT user. And it might be awkward, For me, it was a little awkward conversation figuring out some of the work I do is commodity. Yeah.
Does that link work on free versions of ChatGPT or
I believe it does. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so very quickly, we're going to ask that you complete a poll. We would love to hear feedback on how these sessions are working out for you. And so Elliot is posting the poll now. If you could just take just a minute to fill it out, we'd appreciate it. The first question says, what is your overall rating for the session? 1 being the lowest, and 5 being the highest. And the second question is, how likely are you to recommend this session?
Is the poll supposed? I'm still saying the presentation. Am I looking at the wrong spot?
The poll should have popped up.
Yeah, there should be like a pop-up window that says post-session poll. If you're not seeing it, maybe answer in the chat as Laura reads them aloud. If you're using like 2 monitors too, it might have like popped up on the other monitor or something.
Wonderful. And a couple things we'd like to leave you with is that Greg had referenced a few of our videos that we have done previously. You can find them on our YouTube channel playlist. and Cootie is going to drop the link into the chat box. And I'd also like to invite you to bring your own challenges or your own questions, and you can reach out to us at our email address at hispanochamberecho@gmail.com. And Cootie is also dropping that into the chat box. And we encourage you, this platform is created for you, and hopefully it is helpful in helping you solve some of those challenges or giving you some ideas to do so. And another thing I'd like to remind you of is that the sessions occur every first and third Friday of the month. Our next one will be on June 2nd, and the topic is When to Consider Support Services for Your Business by Mark Fidel of Fidel Consulting Group. So we hope you can join us for that session as well. Greg, thank you so much. That was an amazing presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate your presence and your participation, and we welcome you back with your questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job,
Thank
Greg.
you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Make sure to stop the recording, Laura.